anytime there's a captive audience meeting, frankly, there's a power dynamic.
We haven't had one anti-union meeting that I haven't come out of shaking.
Banning captive audience meetings would go a long way. I think that would allow for a more fair and free election process, which is what the agency is all about.
That's Jennifer Abruzzo. She's the General Counsel of the National Labor Relations Board. You could say she's the most powerful labor lawyer in America.
My main focus is to protect the rights of workers in this country.
She's fed up with big businesses who violate the rules to squelch union organizing in this country.
I have found over 2 decades at the agency, employers will engage in unfair labor practices during the critical period being between the petition filing and the election being conducted. They want time to coerce and intimidate workers to not vote for the union. We should not be allowing our processes to be abused in that way.
Union organizers constantly witness employers using captive meetings to scare workers into voting against the union in what's supposed to be a free and fair election. In just the last year, we saw it in Bessemer during the first Amazon organizing campaign.
They're taking people to numerous meetings a day.
To basically ram the information in our heads about why we shouldn't have a union.
We saw it in Buffalo when Starbucks workers successfully organized.
It's deliberate intimidation and borderline harassment.
Dollar General, Google, Tesla, HelloFresh, and so many others have employed these same tactics to defeat union drives.
It's called captive audience because typically it happens at the workplace, during work time, mandatory meeting, you can't leave it. Employers do have the right to express their opinion, but they don't have the right to coerce, interfere with, or threaten employees with adverse action.
But the Labor Board doesn't have to just accept union busting. Abruzzo's got a plan to do something about it.
When there's a case that's brought to me, I'm going to be asking the board to reconsider this doctrine, which is Joy Silk. And basically what it said was, if a union provides evidence of majority support and seeks voluntary recognition and bargaining, and the employer has no good faith doubt that that union actually does have support of a majority of the workers in that particular unit, then the employer should voluntarily recognize. And if the employer does not and engages in unfair labor practices or other egregious conduct, merely to intimidate or interfere with the free choice of voters, then the board will issue a bargaining order and say, you're ordered to recognize and bargain with this union because you're just abusing our processes.
Got that? If employees of a workplace can demonstrate that a majority of them want a union, and then their boss threatens and intimidates those workers, Abruzzo says the NLRB should force the employer to sit down and negotiate with the union.
The remedy would be you are forced to recognize and bargain with this union.
If the Joy Silk Doctrine is in place, it could broadly expand the ranks of unionized workers in America. Abruzzo didn't just come up with this grand plan on her own. In fact, the legal doctrine she's referencing used to be the law of the land and had a part in protecting workers' right to organize, until it was abandoned by Richard Nixon's National Labor Relations Board under heavy pressure from corporate America.
This was back many years ago, from like 1949 to 69 or so, this doctrine was in effect. What we didn't see during that time frame, that 20-year period, was those sorts of unfair labor practices that were intended to interfere with the free and fair choice of choosing or not choosing a collective bargaining representative.
The good news is that Abruzzo might soon have a case to use to reinstate the Joy Silk Doctrine. In California, a group of 250 port truckers affiliated with the Teamsters are asking the NLRB to issue a bargaining order under the doctrine because the employer, XPO Logistics, has engaged in illegal labor practices. The Teamsters assert that a majority of workers have indicated a preference for a union, but XPO refuses to recognize the union. That case could soon land before Jennifer Abruzzo, and when it does, it could give workers a powerful tool to exercise their rights to organize on the job.
Stop the employer in its tracks when it comes to interfering with, employees wanting a union in their workplace.